Hi everyone, welcome to this panel. Just a quick little introduction. This is brought to you in part by the New York Public Library. We're actually located right there. Our Center for Educators in Schools is aiming to connect teachers with schools and branches in their local libraries. So we have a lot of very qualified library professionals over there to give you the resources that you need to connect your students to all of the cool things we have. If you are here to receive your CCLE credit, we actually have a QR code over there, which you can scan at the end of this panel. We'll tell you a little bit more about that, so just stay tuned. Thank you and enjoy.
Hello, hello. It is so nice to see all of your faces. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Noella Williams, and I'm here surrounded by my wonderful panelists that are also my friends. I am so honored to have the New York Public Library, but also New York Comic Con make this space for us. I really hope everyone on Twitch is also tuning in and enjoying. I really can't wait to talk about a lot of nerd stuff today as it relates to race and gender. So just to get into everything, my name is Noella Williams. My work covers Black culture, veganism, fandoms, music, and of course this book. I'm born and raised in the South and attended a historically Black college, so all of that affects my work and influences it very heavily. Misogynoir and Multiverses, a Black Girl's Guide to Fandom Culture, which y'all are all here for today, is the exploration essentially of racism and sexism that is directed towards Black women and femmes in science fiction, fantasy, superhero fiction spaces. And it also intersects a lot of identities similar to being Black, femme, and queer. So when you're thinking about these things, this book is going to be talking about a lot of topics that happen online and offline, whether it is about the fandom communities themselves or about more things like this, like coming to a Comic-Con, how many of us are here, how many of us are in cosplay, what is the cosplay deriving of as far as are these characters that are race swapped or gender bent, or are they the few Black characters within our niche interests of fandoms. The book is going to be weaving cultural criticism and sharp interviews of, the panelists you're seeing here, but also it is going to tackle my experiences as a Black organizer in the South and how we can use a Black queer feminist lens to improve these spaces. So essentially, it's paying homage to my years on Tumblr, and it's currently just in proposal stages right now. But essentially, I really want to get right into it because we have these three right here. I am going to go ahead and introduce. There's me right there. Okay. I don't want y'all to be able to see this, so I don't know how well everyone on Twitch can see the TV over there, but I have a little bit of my favorite media, which includes X2, which I consider one of the best X-Men live-action movies. Buffy, The Vampire Diaries, and Charmed, period. What I don't have on here is Teen Wolf. Nadir and I were talking a lot about Teen Wolf, there you are, earlier, and we will get definitely to talking about it more. But yeah, so you heard a lot about me. I essentially remiss of my bio. Nazira, a Brooklyn-based culture writer and podcaster for Slate. Her written work primarily focuses on Black culture, film, and television, internet culture, where she is most known for explaining the latest drama unfolding on your algorithm, and all things related to her hometown of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Go Birds!
Go Birds. Though that hasn't stopped her from writing about her odd foodie tendencies and her not-so-secret obsession with K-pop and K-dramas. As a longtime lover of everything vampires, lycanthropes, and witches, Nazira's work has also proved her fantasy bona fides. She has decoded Sinners, appraised the revival of MTV's hit teen drama Teen Wolf, and gone bat for one of the best shows currently on television, which are her words that I also agree with, AMC's Interview with the Vampire. And in fact, like right here, she is going to be talking someone's ear off, all of your ears, about how True Blood, society hasn't really been well since it ended. Not wrong, so true. So we have Caitlin. Caitlin McNabb is an award-winning journalist and the culture editor at Teen Vogue, and a multimedia storyteller based in New York. She's a graduate of NYU's Gallatin School of Individualized Study, which she holds a self-designed BA that's titled How to Tell Stories While Black, and a minor in Africana Studies. Come on, resume. Caitlin co-leads Teen Vogue's entertainment coverage and has interviewed pop culture vanguards like Millie Bobby Brown, Issa Rae, and Dominique Thorne. In addition to her work at Teen Vogue, Caitlin has also written for GQ, Allure, ID, Bustle, and Ebony. Caitlin's poetry and prose have appeared in Electric Literature, and she's currently working on her debut novel, Original Pilots, and revising her first original feature screenplay. Come on, multitasking. Caitlin's lifelong creative mission is to celebrate and articulate diverse Black experiences. Now we have Jordan R. Brown, MM and MA. Let's make sure that is seen. Jordan is a doctoral candidate in ethnomusicology and presidential scholar at Harvard University with a secondary field in African and African American studies. She's currently chair of Harvard University's Graduate Music Forum, co-chair of Project Spectrum Music, and a UNESCO Youth Ambassador for Peace and Intercultural Dialogue. Grounded in Black politics, feminist theory, and queer theory, her research examines alternative R&B, alternative hip-hop, and the cultural spaces they create, including virtual worlds studied through video game and animation ethnography. Her work will be supported by the W.E.B. Du Bois Research Institute, where she will serve as the Dorothy Porter Fellow for the 2025 to 2026 academic year. She identifies as a performer, scholar, under the music alias J. Renee, let's hear it, and intends to continue bridging the two practices in her future work. So please give it up for my panelists. All right, well, clearly we have a lot to talk about, so how many of y'all have seen Sinners?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, let's get a few more claps for Sinners. Exactly, come on, movie of the year. So when it comes to this movie, I tell people this is my favorite Black media of this year, which, you know, when we have Superman with Edie Gathegi and Jazz Sinclair and Gen V, it's really hard to choose Sinners, but also not because it's Sinners. So I have to start with a little icebreaker, asking my panelists. I'll start with Caitlin. What is your favorite Black media of this year?
You know, it was so hard to choose, but I have to say Sinners. Yeah.
Sinners! Okay, Zira.
I mean, same.
Another one for Sinners.
I'm gonna be different.
Please.
My favorite one is what I anticipate will be a cult classic, One of Them Days with Keke Palmer and SZA.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Amazing comedy.
We're having some technical difficulties. Let's fix that, because we of course want everyone on Twitch to also be able to hear everyone quite well. Okay, we can hear
Great.
us. Oh, I'm so
Great.
sorry. Everyone's sounding off in the chat. Sorry that you missed the wonderful bios by everyone, but at least you can see all of us now. All right, so Sinners, clearly one of the most popular media of this year. Shout out to Ryan and Zizi Kugler. Shout out to Michael B. Jordan, Wumi Wasaku. Why am I suddenly forgetting one else?
Miles Keaton.
Hello, exactly, thank you. So my first question is for Jordan. From the perspective of someone with Southern roots that's studying ethnomusicology, what are your thoughts on the music in Sinners?
I loved the music in Sinners. I think it did a really good job of being super informed. It was very clear that the people who were working on the composition and the arrangements really took the time out, which is kind of, you know, Ludwig Göransson's thing. Like he's a pretty well-researched guy. But I do have to admit I'm a little bit biased because my advisor worked on the music. You know, people are under NDAs, right? So I didn't really realize it until I stayed for the credits, and then I saw her name come. It was like Ingrid Mons, and I said, "What?" So, and then she was like, "Ah, yes, I'll tell you about my red carpet journey." I was like, "Wow, so cool." So I actually got a quote from her before this to share with you guys specifically for this panel. She said, "I had the great privilege to work as a music consultant on Sinners. I helped the composer Ludwig Göransson and the music supervisor Serena Göransson with historical questions and copyright issues in the use of pre-existing musical pieces. In the process, I got to hear the music, its development and revision. I think the resulting soundtrack is absolutely amazing. It both accompanies and drives the story of racial injustice and Black solidarity in very deep ways. A month in advance of the premiere, everyone was worried about Sinners and whether it would be successful, believe it or not. In addition to its critical acclaim, Sinners is historic in the type of contract the director Ryan Coogler successfully negotiated with Warner Brothers, which will revert full film rights to him after 25 years. The creation of the film thus upends the story it tells of the exploitation of Black musicians, who were always the last to benefit from their efforts, if at all. So I think that does a good job of sort of summing it up and summing up how Black popular music sort of has shaped, all the way up to what we see in the blues, and also the difference between sacred and secular, and kind of how we've moved through that, especially through the Black church. So I have a lot of thoughts, but those are my initial ones.
Come on, exclusive Cole, and hello. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you to the consultant for also sharing that with us. So my next question is for Caitlin. In addition to Sinners, Ryan and Zinzi Coogler also released another proximity media project this year with a Black lead, Wakanda Forever. Anyone awesome fans of Wakanda Forever in the chat? Was Dominique Thorne's debut in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and in her interview with Caitlin, Dominique spoke about timing and intentionality, which is reflected in her performance of Ruby Williams. So, being Black is clearly not a monolithic experience, nor is our regional history, so it requires research from the actors. So that begs the question, what about the people behind the cameras? What's happening in the writer's room? What's happening for the showrunners, directors? So since the Cooglers intentionally hired Dr. Yvonne Choureau as a consultant to accurately portray a hoodoo on screen, why is this representation just as important?
Yeah, I think the thing that makes Ryan Coogler stand out so much as not only an auteur, but as someone who's really leading the charge in Black storytelling right now is because of his keen attention to detail and his dedication to making sure that communities feel absolutely represented. And by communities, I mean our community. He listens before he leads, and I think that is the true tell of someone who has an actual very strong mission statement and purpose with his storytelling. And I think that shows through Ironheart. I think that shows through all of his prior projects. And I also think that Sinners is his magnum opus in a way, his #1 masterwork. And I'm so excited to see what he does next. But we ran a story on Teen Vogue earlier this year with an interview with Dr. Yvonne Choureau. And she talked about how they asked so many questions during the process. They made sure that she had every resource that she needed to make sure that everything was historically accurate. She made sure that they were in touch with actual hoodoo practitioners, because she is a scholar of the faith and of the practice, but she does not practice herself. So she wanted to make sure that no matter what, she knew and they knew that there is still a level of authenticity that she could not bring, and she wanted to make sure that that was provided no matter what. So I think just having her on set to be able to make that distinction is why folks who have lineage and have roots in hoodoo and in Southern practitioners of this faith felt so seen and so represented. And I think that kind of attention to detail can only come from behind the camera. And that really says so much about his work and his legacy as he continues to build it. So I say that we need more of us behind the camera, always, of course, because it's those details that really create such strong representation for us across the diaspora.
Yeah, thank you. That was so peaceful. I 100% agree, and I do feel like the intention is very memorable behind every Sinners rewatch that I have. There is something that sticks out every single time. I actually, if you know me well, I saw Sinners 4 times in theaters. I did not play. 3 out of those 4 times were in IMAX 70 millimeter. I was at AMC Lincoln Square I was clocking in first shift, so I was there a lot. I actually haven't had my first watch since it's been on streaming. I'm really excited. I've kind of put it off so it could be closer to Halloween, and I don't know, it's interesting when I hear, wow, Black vampires are so back, the vampire renaissance is happening, and Nadir here is my sister in arms when it comes to AMC's Interview with the Vampire. One of the best shows right now on television, and Nadira actually did write an article saying Interview with the Vampire is the best show almost nobody is watching. And when people say that
it went viral, by the way, that article, yeah.
Exactly. Of course it went viral because the fandom behind Interview with the Vampire doesn't play. There's a lot going on. There's a little toxicity involved in the fandom, but that is, why I'm writing this book, why we're here. Because, we have Jacob Anderson, we have Bailey Bass, and we have Delaney Hales, 3 Black vampires that are making, honestly, a lot of waves in history and noise in general for what the Black vampire is and can be, especially when queerness is involved. So why does this statement really make my blood boil, Nadira, when people don't recognize what's going on AMC?
Yeah, I think there's a lot going into it. So, first, I love Interview with the Vampire so much. Famously, it is a show that takes from Anne Rice's IP, her novels, and it definitely adds more diversity than the source text and all the sort of predecessors or adaptations that came before it. And I think it's doing things in the space of Black media that no other show is doing. The first season is essentially a story about a Black gay entrepreneur in the Jim Crow South in Louisiana. Where else are you seeing that on TV? And then with the second season, it sort of builds more, and it displays all these really complex relationships, right? Complex queer relationships, father-daughter relationships, and all with this sort of layer of fantasy. It's really doing something that no other show, I think, is doing. However, a part of my piece was borrowing a lot from what culture critic Bobby Miller wrote, and everyone here should be following Bobby Miller, by the way. We love Bobby.
We love Bobby.
And Bobby said, rightfully so, that a part of the show's issue, despite the fact that it's on AMC, and I think there's a lot to be said about the sort of decline of AMC, but in addition to that, it has what Bobby dubs as a CW audience, right? And as someone who writes about CW shows quite a lot for Slate, a part of my piece was decoding what is a CW audience. And of course, it's an audience that is predominantly younger, predominantly female, queer, femme. And those are groups that are most often infantilized, that aren't taken as seriously, whose they're more passionate than other fandoms, I would honestly say, but that passion is coded as hysteria, as something else, right? And so it's hard to have people take you seriously when you're coded in this fandom, and so therefore the product that these fans are promoting or that they're representing so hard for is also not taken seriously by academies, by critics, by men. and so a lot of the piece was about, explaining how good the show is, but also trying to break down any sort of biases towards the audiences that watch it and that are very open and vocal about watching it, so that, we can sort of, destigmatize that area. But everyone here should watch it. It's an incredible show. And the next time you hear someone sort of, sideline a show that you would say might have a CW audience, definitely think about what that means, what they're saying, where that comes from, where their opinion comes from. And it's really fun to sort of play in that space and to, just let your inhibitions go and like these types of shows, right?
I 100% relate to loving a CW-esque teen soapy drama. Some of the shows I mentioned were not just Vampire Diaries or Teen Wolf, but The Flash at its prime. When you want to talk about mothers when it comes to Black nerds, there is Candace Patton as Iris West, and Bonnie Bennett as the Vampire Diaries, and Kat Graham as Bonnet Bennett in the Vampire Diaries. And these two suffered so much vitriol just from fandoms that are very racist and sexist, but also from the showrunners.
Julie Plec, when I catch you.
When I catch you, actually. Because how are you going to write my girl to be suffering every other episode and at the hands of just a cast that actually did love her? If you look at interviews, it's the same thing with Candace Patton as Iris West. Her coworkers loved her, so what's going on behind the scenes? And one of these things when we have these few Black characters in television shows and movies is I love noticing their subtle expressions or just ebonics, things that are just very inherently Black. And to put it in Nadira's words, there is something special about writing a, quote, toddler with a 6'13" lace front 18-inch wig And she quoted us in a piece about Game of Thrones spinoff House of the Dragon, which I have not watched, but I can also relate to talking about, who is doing their hair? I mean, I think a lot of people raised the question with Leah Siva Jeffries' Annabeth in Camp Half-Blood. Who is doing her braids? Why are her braids looking so good? Who is doing that? That's the questions that we have when we get these Black characters on screen. So, when there's not these characters on screen, there's this absence. It's making me ask, where are the Black girls? And Caitlin, not only is Where Are the Black Girls a popular article on Teen Vogue's website, which we love. I'm a big fan of the article written by Ayan. And you wrote an article that caused quite a commotion among white fans of Stranger Things. And for those unfamiliar, the season 4 finale specifically of Stranger Things features a scene of Lucas Sinclair, the show's only Black male character, held at gunpoint. This traumatic experience reminds me of scenes from The Umbrella Academy, Paper Girls, Lovecraft Country, and A League of Their Own. And only 3 of those are sci-fi fantasy, so when you think of A League of Their Own, it seems like no matter the genre, we really can't escape these things happening to us. So, is it worth calling out showrunners and directors for moments like this that are harmful for the viewers? Or what do you think? Do you want to even engage with the racist fandom at all?
I'll come back to the engaging with the racist fandom part of the question, but I will say, yes, we need to absolutely call out these showrunners, call out these writers' rooms. I think bringing these biases to public attention is the only way that we see actual change. For those who haven't seen the Stranger Things 4 season finale, the entire cast is split up across Russia, across Hawkins, Indiana, and every pair or duo of characters that is kind of battling to the death in this finale gets to fight some kind of monster, whether it's a Demogorgon, a Demodog, a Demobat, whatever. Erica and Lucas Sinclair, the only 2 Black characters in the main cast of the young crew, are instead given a battle against a real-life monster that many fans actually have dealt with in real life, a gang of white teenage boys who have taken upon themselves to kind of become a mob in their town and find the culprits of Satanism, and they target these 2 young Black kids. They end up kneeling on Erica's back. They end up holding both of them at gunpoint, and everyone else in the show in that finale gets to face a real quote-unquote monster. But yet, Lucas and Erica have to fight with things that they would have fought with in the 80s Hawkins, Indiana, no matter what, no matter if they were upside down or not. And I had a huge issue with that, so I wrote this op-ed for Teen Vogue back in 2022, and I was attacked immediately by fans who were like, why are you saying, this is so not true, you're making something out of nothing. But I think Caleb McLaughlin, who plays Lucas Sinclair, he has sort of addressed in the past. I think, he's tried to the best of his ability because of the fact that he's been on the show for so long. Of course, he has, I think, loyalty and real trust with a lot of his cast members and a few of the crew, but he has called out before that a lot of what Lucas deals with is because he is the only Black kid in the crew. And I think when it comes to engaging with the racist fandom, I kind of am okay with rage baiting them. I'm not gonna hold you. Engaging with them, I don't know. I don't think we should ever, as my principle is that I don't think we should ever engage with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. And I think so much of the toxicity of the ugliest sides of fandom, whether that's like the doxing from the Barbs, whether that's racist Stranger Things fans telling me that I'm making something up, and I think those people are not actually, they don't have the foresight or the willingness to actually understand what it is that we're actually exposing here. And they're not who I'm concerned with, because they will never actually change anything about the media that I'm consuming, about the future of the media that we will make and see. And I think calling it out, though, is how we see the change, because we need to hold these people accountable. And again, the Duffer Brothers, when I catch you, they listen. So we'll see how season 5 pans out, but yeah, I think In terms of representation, we need to continue speaking up and never stop, just because they cannot silence us. I will not be silenced.
We shouldn't be silenced either, yes, exactly. Thank you for that. I'm also really glad that you wrote things like this because, I mean, Dira, I know the next question is to you, but when we write these articles, I am telling you, that was season 4 finale, which is honestly left a really bad taste in my mouth for Stranger Things, given the prolonged break since the new season that I don't even know when it comes out. Honestly, not my business. Will I watch for Caleb?
November 27th, but yeah.
Well, now it's my business. So maybe we'll tune in, but sometimes, these characters are shown on screen. Maybe it's not as harmful of a trope as, someone getting pulled on gunpoint, but Nadira, your article, you've written articles about how a plot has been centered on black hair, and is black hair the villain of the stories? Is supposed to be something to move the plot forward. You've written about how black-coded a goofy movie is. You have also written about black characters in shows like Severance. We have Mr. Milchek. Absolutely love Tramel Tillman, now Emmy Award-winning Tramel Tillman.
Yes.
Exactly, we love him. You've also written about Caleb McLaughlin's Lucas Sinclair, similar to Caitlin. So how do you determine what is deemed good representation, good being in air quotes, and also stereotypes, or just a character that just happens to be black?
That's such a good question. Something that I'm sort of thinking about all the time before I even think about how I feel about a piece of representation is like everything that had to go into it in order for it to happen in the first place. There's a video that I think about all of the time of Kat Graham, who plays Bonnie Bennett on The Vampire Diaries. I don't know what project she was working on, but she is in like a makeup and hair trailer, and she's in the seat and she's weeping and she's crying tears of joy because she, for the first time in her like decades-long career, has a black makeup artist doing her makeup, and it's Danessa Myricks. It's like one of the most famous makeup artists, who is also a pioneer in her own right in that space. And when I saw that for the first time, for most of my life, I think so much about why don't I see characters that look like me on screen, or if I do see them, then why are they written poorly? And that is a conversation for sure to be had. But it wasn't until I saw that video that I also thought about all of the resources that these actors and actresses do not get, right? And so, if you don't even have someone to make your hair look good or your makeup look good, then you can't advocate for yourself to have better writing. Like there's no, and no one there is going to do it for you, clearly, because they're letting you look a mess. Like it's really like, there's so many layers to it, and so there's so much to think about. However, when I do think about good representations versus lacking representations or poor representations, I think a lot of the ones that I find lacking, Bonnie Bennett, Lucas, I also wrote about specifically season 4, I think they're characters who have a lot of potential, right? And so what keeps you attracted to them is that they have a lot of potential. Oftentimes they're very powerful, they're usually there to serve the white characters of the story, even though they're the ones always saving the day, or they're the ones that have the most common sense, or whatever it may be. Their bodies are often the ones on the line. Like they're usually giving up a lot more for characters who do a lot less. And I also think that it's really frustrating because they, in terms of what we define as a protagonist, a character that has the most change, right? They are oftentimes that. Like when I think about Lucas and I think about Stranger Things, he was the one who was most hesitant of 11 and everything that the show ends up becoming when it starts. And yet, by this season, he's the one that's sort of most in. He also has a really interesting plot line in that last season where that mob of teens, they're, I believe, basketball players, and so he has this really fascinating tension about, does he, quote unquote, sell out and become a basketball player, or does he stick with his friends and play D&D, right, and stay a nerd, quote unquote. Not how I would define those two things. However, that's how they define them in the show. And then they ruin it because they turn it into a murderous horde of white boys who are just set out to kill them.
Another detail that I just remembered is that also him and Erica are tasked with protecting Max's body that entire season.
The whole time.
The entire time they are also protecting the body of a white girl. And I think that adds another layer to the racism of the decision to have them be the only two characters who face human monsters in that entire finale.
And if I compare it to Mr. Milchick in Severance or Jazz Sinclair's Marie Moreau in Gen V, those are characters whose writing and their performances, their performances are great because the writing allows them to be great. And the writing itself is so grounded and so nuanced in ways that you have to spend 48 hours and 2,000 words, that you send to your editor and then apologize for sending that many words to decode, to untether. And it's a labor of love, right? To craft these characters and to see them as entire people and to see their struggles as their own and not pertaining to how their struggle impacts the journey of a white character, right? It's how their struggles impact themselves and their own personal journey, whether they're the main character like Marie Moreau or a side character like Mr. Milchick. And so I think it's a lot about intention. Like when you're sitting down to write these characters, are you writing them because you see them as a plot device or are you writing them because you see them as human? And that to me, I think is where a lot of, that's where the line is most of the time.
Yeah, and I kind of just want to add really quickly, I think what you were saying earlier about the resources that these actors are given, I think that intentionality of, are they human? Am I actually putting them in here as a plot device? I think so much of that, you don't think about, will they have their hair done? Will they be the only black person on the cast? That's the other thing. I was recently speaking with, I can't just, embargoes and stuff, but I was recently speaking with an actress who has been on a huge sci-fi show. She's the only black girl on the cast, and she's been on for years, and she talked about how isolating that experience was. And I asked her, I'm like, oh, everyone on this cast is the same age as you, like, who did you lean on the most? And she was like, I didn't lean on anybody because I'm the only black girl. Their experience is not my experience. And I think people really underestimate, at least, not in our community, but folks who do not value black storytellers do not understand how unique that experience can be and how isolating it is when you don't have anyone to lean on, whether that's a hairstylist or a castmate or a writer in the writer's room. So I think that intentionality really does start behind the camera, like I said, yeah.
Let's talk about movies and shows. You guys know what my secret for favorite third thing is video games, and these are experiences that do happen across a lot of different medias. Jordan and I here are girl gamers. Do we have any other gamers in the space? Thank you. I see a lot of hands. Twitch, I'm also talking to you. I'm breaking the fourth wall. Can we get some gamers in the chat, please, too? So, we do exist, Black Gamer Girls. My Nintendo Game Boy, Kirby, and Pokemon tattoos speak for themselves. And I also stand by the Wii being one of Nintendo's best. This way? Okay, speaking more this way. Thank you. No, I think the Wii is one of the best consoles that we have been graced with on this earth. I still play Just Dance 2 and 3 weekly. My roommates can attest that has been my new thing. So I removed a chapter from this book. Let's drop the book title again. Misogynoir and Multiverses, A Black Girl's Guide to Fandom Culture. Fandom also exists within video games. If you're any familiar with Gamergate, there is a lot of racism and sexism in the game spaces. Honestly, I don't even know what's worse, TV shows and movies or the world of gaming. So all of this in mind, I did remove the chapter I intended to have in this book to make it its own separate book. And with this year's game, South of Midnight, I don't know if anyone is familiar with it, but it is starring a black female protagonist.
I'm gonna put you on. This is the best game I've ever played, I think.
Exactly. Also so there's a lot of reasons why Jordan is accurately saying it is one of the best games. And it's because it is a W for Southern Gothic media. I mean, it's as if we were not blessed enough to have Sinners this year. We also got South of Midnight. And the game has so much folklore. There's so much going on that is very accurate to what it is to be a Southerner, to have a experience of maybe not the best relationship with your mother, but knowing that you have to save them, and the way that it weaves in any kind of magical experiences. I just have never I've never been blessed with a game that has put us first. I mean, I have some little screen caps right here of my Nintendo Switch, and Animal Crossing is in the top left, and Pokemon, I believe that's Violet, is in the bottom right. And with these two games, I mean, Nintendo just decided to recently start adding skin complexion in these games, which is honestly really ridiculous that we're just getting to do braids and have just our skin tones, mind you, very limited when it comes to video games. So, you know, with this in mind, and with Tati Gabrielle also voicing the protagonist for Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, Jordan, what's going on with video games? What's tea? What are your thoughts?
It's not looking good, folks. Just so we're on the same page, who here has played an Xbox? Okay, cool. PlayStation? Okay, Nintendo products? Okay, what about PC? All right, wow, okay, that's a good chunk of everybody. Yeah, that's amazing.
Simmers.
Career Simmers.
Yeah. Oh yes.
I am an ally to the Simmers.
Black girl, yeah. This is a whole different beast, especially with who Sims just got sold to, which is a whole other conversation. But yeah, it's honestly, as we're saying, it's a really tough arena for Black people, let alone Black women, to just simply exist. The majority of the depictions are kind of what we see in these TV shows with a sidekick. They're not really playable characters, or maybe you get, like in the beginning, a choose your character and then you can darken the complexion on your own, or they're the villain, which is very, very often the portrayal where they're the villain and they're violent. So what is that pushing forward in terms of our media? I also would say, it's a complicated thing, so I'm excited that Noella, is taking this and making it a bigger thing. Because you also, take into consideration the, national impact as America, but also remember these systems, a lot of them were created by Japan. So we're thinking also about a global market and how we as Black women especially are depicted around the world. And also how, what does that sound like? Of course, I think when you compare video games of the time to anime of the time, there are depictions that are very minstrel-esque. That is just blatantly the way to put it. So it's important that we think about this and also, hold space for each other, and the fact that this tension is still here, and it seems to be at a snail's pace in terms of going away. So I will say, I looked at some statistics over here, and I found that in a 2022 study, only 8% of main characters were non-white. Just non-white. That's not even
that statistic for us.
8.3% of main characters were non-white. That is a alarmingly low number, and that's not even saying Black. I don't even know how small that percentage is, right? And also, the key is main characters. This includes villains, this includes sidekicks. We have nothing that says Black female protagonist. So that is what I think makes South of Midnight such a special game. This depiction is not fetishized in any sort of way. Like, she's not outwardly in revealing clothing, which is kind of what we also get when we have a playable character. And she's kind of giving this alternative look, which I think what a lot of us as gamers kind of see ourselves as. And also the biggest thing in this for me is that you can actually tell that she's Black.
Yes.
The amount of times I've looked at games, they'd be like, oh yeah, there's a Black character. I'm over here like, it's a tan white person. With a bob, that's straight. Like, you're counting this? No, it's real. So, I mean, few and far between. I think South of Midnight is showing us a really good precedent, especially as an indie game and somebody who's has the privilege to not pay attention to the market and just what sells. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Jordan. We love video games over here. So with thinking about all this in mind, escapism, how you can find it through TV shows, movies, video games, books, all of this different kinds of media. The chapter I've been working on for this book, as I wrap up with proposal is covering my Tumblr origin story and the connections between Wattpad and maladaptive daydreaming, and both of those were methods that I really got to when I had these feelings of loneliness and belonging as a teenager. And I introduced a chapter with a racist experience that happened during my junior year of high school that really drew a lot of conclusions to why I was searching for this community offline. And I have some fun screenshots here. Twitch, you aren't getting the wonderful view here of me in sophomore year of high school, and also to the right of it, 8th grade, I would say. This is my little start to fandom, and then under that I have a screenshot of a very dated meme. This is posted on my Facebook, by the way. We have Keep Calm and Love Teen Wolf, Keep Calm and Love Styles Stilinski, and then we have a black and white picture of Tyler Posey, who played the main werewolf on Teen Wolf, Scott McCall. And then we have some tweets of mine, which there's so many of those. Please look at the timestamp. I am not new to this. I am true to this. We have had over 10 years of me talking about Teen Wolf, quote, my professional job. And, we've kind of made it here. I would say it's professional enough to where I'm writing a book about fandoms. So with all of this in mind, and also keeping in mind that it is Banned Books Week right now, and I'm actively writing a book that will probably be banned in my state, my home state, which is Florida. I hear some laughter.
Collective groan was crazy.
Yeah, we have some audience reactions to Florida here. Listen, I love Florida, I love my home, but
They do be banning books.
They do be banning books. My book will probably be banned. But when I think about how I have my background in organizing, it solidified two things for me. We have to write these books regardless of if they're going to be banned or not, and also the people reading them, more than likely children or teenagers, are our future. So with that in mind, I do plan for my book's chapters to touch on a lot of more mature topics like finding your queer identity as someone that is actively queer in like a big city, in organizing spaces, how you translate that to the media you're consuming. But I also want parents to understand this is a book that they can get for their teenage child when they just don't understand. Because for some context, my parents are Caribbean, I grew up in the South, and I was raised in the church. And if you take those three things, being a nerd is not taken that lightly in spaces. I was a little, to quote what Jug had from Riverdale, I'm a weirdo. I'm weird. I'm just weird, okay? You can't get me. And I mean, these are better photos that don't depict me with like this really angsty synthetic red wig when I was really trying to figure out, I'm a fangirl, so I have to look like one. So, I didn't have a lot of media then to represent me, but now Nadira and I have been talking about our favorite, one of our favorite shows from this year, Gen V. Is anyone watching Gen V?
Yes.
Okay. So there's Marie Moreau's bloodbending and her complex relationship with her family, plus the show has general takes on 20-somethings issues like gender identity, disordered eating, and grief. So Nadira, as a documented lover of teen drama, something special, that being science fiction and fantasy, please share some of your favorite series that depict teens and coming of age, and why seeing more of us like Marie is necessary.
Oh gosh, it's hard because you think about Teen Wolf and then you're like, they didn't have a black character until season, I don't even know, 4 or something crazy, maybe even later than that. My first recommendation actually is going to be something entirely outside of the scope, but if you want a show that is a great coming of age show that is non-white, I think one of the best television shows of the past 5 to 10 years is Reservation Dogs. Everyone should go watch Reservation Dogs. It's incredible. In addition to that, obviously Gen V, I wrote a piece for Slate about how much I love the CW's Nancy Drew, which is super supernatural and one of my favorite shows. And a part of my piece is about how I never loved Nancy Drew growing up because even though I love detective stories, I was kind of like, who is this white girl? Quite literally, who is this white girl? Why is she in everybody's business and why are they letting her do that? But the show opens it up. She's older. She's, she has sex, she has problems, she has issues, and she also has a diverse cast of friends. We love diverse cast of friends. And one of the characters who starts off as a love interest and then just ends up one of her friends, Nick, he's a black man, and one of the sort of stories throughout the show, a part of his backstory, is his time spent in juvie. And I think it's really impactful throughout the show. I think the show just generally is great. And if I could throw in one more sort of alternative answer, which might make me a little bit emotional. It's not necessarily a teen coming of age show, but a character that is very, very important to me in the sort of black, queer fantasy space that has shown me that you can always be coming of age and you can always be finding yourself is Lafayette from True Blood. Yes. And I miss Nelson Ellis so much. Like, that's the part that might make me emotional. But from the very first time you meet Lafayette on that show, first of all, a bad bitch. Second of all, like, always about their business, stands up for their friends, for their family, and has to come to terms with their spirituality and powers and who they want to be and how they want to live and love and whether the white people around them are serving them or good friends or not. And there's a lot of things in Lafayette's story that I think are incredibly moving and important, and you don't have to be a teenager to be coming of age, right? It's just about adjusting to where you are and always growing, and I think that's a character that really did that for me. And so if you haven't revisited True Blood in a while, or even just looking up clips of like Lafayette's best moments on the show, I would recommend doing that. That's like a character that's really, really close to my heart.
It's really funny you say that. True Blood, my first watch was last year. I didn't entirely get through all of it, which I have a treat just waiting for myself, clearly. But that was one of the band shows on my parents' list. That and Nip and Tuck. For some reason, I won't know, but maybe everyone laughing knows why. But Nip and Tuck was the one my parents were like, "You are not allowed to watch that."
What's so funny is my mom is the one that showed me True Blood. Like, my mom has read all of the books, and
she's hip.
Yeah, no, my mom. My presence on this panel is entirely owed to my mother. Like, I was watching Van Helsing and the original Interview with the Vampire before like any of these things came out. Like, Nicole, she loves herself a black vampire, any vampire.
That goes to show that parents that work themselves to be involved in their child's life, when they show more nerdy things, it's very noticeable. And Jordan, from the perspective of a doctorate student, I would love to know what you would include in your future syllabus to reflect fandom, like movie fandoms, music, video games, etc.
Yeah, I think this is a really good question. Actually, on the way over here, Noella and I were talking about the fact that I'm 2 years away from being on the job market, so who knows, in 3 years I could be somebody's professor out there.
Will be.
Yes, absolutely. So I think these classes need to be taught in terms of, you have fandoms, like I've written pieces on Beyonce, and obviously that's a gigantic fandom. I've done that pop culture thing, but I want to get more niche with how we talk about alternative musics. In terms of my own work, I'm looking at the more niche stuff like the Tracy Chapmans and the Arlo Parks and the Sids and the Erykah Badu's, and how that sort of sound has been the soundtrack for us as alternative black women. And then on top of that, you kind of have this whole thing about animation, and there's not a lot of music research on animation. So I think it would be really interesting, and this is also coming from somebody who, I only watch cartoons when I'm home. So it's important to sort of break down these characters and what they meant for us. So I got a couple here that I took notes. So we have Penny Proud, we have Number 5 from Codename Kids Next Door, Monique from Kim Possible, Miranda from As Told by Ginger, if you're a 90s kid. And also 2 of those characters are voiced by Cree Summer. So she definitely deserves her flowers wherever she is.
Yeah, Macy Gray on the soundtrack, on the theme song.
Absolutely. So you have those that are explicitly, black, and then you have the ones that are, subtly black, or what we perceive to be black, like Garnet from Steven Universe, Shigo from Kim Possible, Jake the Dog from Adventure Time, and also even Elmo.
And a Goofy movie. Yeah.
Yes.
The black kid.
Exactly.
Yeah, Elmo is black.
Agreed. Because I would pick a fight with Rocco too.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, so you have those things that are perceived as black, actually are represented as black, and then you have the niche, which is like in animation, who is voicing the black characters. And that's become a larger conversation now in terms of people stepping down from their roles in terms of making space for black women to sort of fill these things. So kind of as we were talking about earlier in our talks here, it's important to think about who is behind it all, and how we can honestly push some of these actors to make more educated decisions on their role choices.
Thank you so much, Jordan. So before we open it up to some Q&A, if anyone in the crowd or Twitch has any questions they want to start thinking about, Caitlin reached out to me during my time at Florida A&M University, which means so much to me, also go Rattlers, about an article exploring music, community, and fan safety. I did write this, and it covers the dangers of Astroworld and how it speaks to a larger way of how we need to prioritize fan safety, not just in music festivals, but also online, how are we protecting each other when it comes to these fandoms. So as an editor, why is outreach to younger generations paving a way for more of us in these often very white fandom spaces?
Yeah, I think in general, one of my favorite things about being an editor in my late 20s is that I'm able to reach back and uplift so many younger voices, because I was in that position once as well. And I think there is no one who has their finger on the pulse more than the kids. And the fact that we tend to dismiss young people and their perspectives and their experiences, their real, valid, real life experiences, I think is a waste, and I think it's dangerous. And I, for one, always want to hear what the young people are talking about and their perspectives on things. And that's why I really do love the work that we do here at Teen Vogue, just because we really prioritize that. And it's important to me to continue to amplify voices like yours, Noella, like Ayan Artan, who wrote the beautiful piece Where Are the Black Girls, that really talks about the lack of representation in all the extremely popular YA shows that are kind of taking over like television right now. And others, we had a writer named Tabitha Gwen who wrote a gorgeous film review for us on the Pixar film Turning Red, and tied it into her own Chinese heritage. And she was one of the most talented writers I ever came across, and she was 15 when she pitched it. So I think we just need to be open to giving young people the chance to actually speak their minds and share their perspectives, because not only do we learn from them, but they learn as well. And I mean, that's what did Whitney Houston say?
I love it.
I was supposed to say the future, y'all.
Okay.
Right. I forgot that she did also say that.
She did say that.
She do be saying a lot. Wow.
I know she did that one point, which brings me to the audience. We love comedy. In the wise words of Dakota Johnson, Madam Web, we have maybe time for 2 or 3 questions. So, yes, please. Good, you go.
Oh, there's a...
Hello? Hi. Alright, so before I ask my question, another character, Lana came from Archer.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So I'm a librarian, so hence my reaction to the whole Florida thing. Florida is either banning books or ripping pages out of books, so that's all I'm gonna say. But in terms of vampire books, have you read any of the books? Because we're seeing a more renaissance in vampires for literature. So Alexis Henderson's House of Hunger, and Immortal Dark, and I'm about to butcher her name, Tigris Guillemot, is that how you pronounce it? I don't know if you read those, and if you want to add some books to other YA books, these anthologies that they rip tropes. One is called The Black Girl Survives in this one, and the other one's called The White Guy Dies First. So I don't know if you've read any of those books.
I need to read them.
I haven't, but thank you so much for sharing. We just got some really great book recommendations here for anyone on Twitch that wasn't able to hear correctly, but don't worry, because that is what this recording is for. I actually have Immortal Dark on my watch list, my to be read, and I'm so excited to read it one day, because I'm gonna have to do a lot of research for this book, and it's gonna also be books, podcasts, movies, TV shows. One of the things I'm gonna leave y'all with is to please email me with recommendations. I want to make sure this book covers a lot of things, but I also want to make sure we get to the second question, so please.
Hello. I was an avid fan of Vampire Diaries. I met Ian Somerhalder. He's fantastic, but wonderful. But my question is, you spoke about Bonnie Bennett being the only black character on the show for its like 7 or 8 year run. But I was actually in awe of her because they had her character try to take out Klaus like 3 times. And they gave her that whole storyline with Damon where they were in the other side. So,
Oh my gosh.
even though she was the only black character and they could have done more, I mean, do you agree that they gave her... I was just in awe, and she was black, and I'm an adult, and I'm watching it, I'm not a kid, so I thought it was wonderful, so I just wanted to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
So, to summarize the question, my thoughts essentially on her one episode with Damon Salvatore, where it's essentially just them together, but also how she was taking on a lot of big battles, especially with Klaus. I think it's really interesting now that you say that, which is why I love rewatching things as an adult, because thinking about how Bonnie was always against the big bad is reminding me about how Maria Moreau in Gen V is lining up to defeat Homelander, and The Boys has been going on for years now. It's about to be in its last season, so it's just like, we're putting up the black woman, the all superpowered, some might say strong black woman, against this big villain, and then, you know, we might give her crumbs of a love story that is honestly too damn late. Like, here, damn, finally, we're giving her, now Damon and Bonnie are getting to have some kind of love story. So I do love that episode. I watched multiple fan cams and read some fan fiction based on that. I'm not even gonna hold you, and I have given some streaming numbers to that YouTube, the YouTube clip specifically from that. You know, we are talking about a vampire enjoyer. We have to right here. So I do think that with all that Bonnie went through, it is really nice to go and rewatch the series now, just to be again like, wow, I cannot believe they put her through all of these things. But I am glad, I guess, that there was some, I don't know how to say this in a nice way, like depiction of someone who was strong, but also telling me like it really sucks she had to be this resilient throughout the entire show.
Yeah, every time she had a moment where it kind of proved that she was one of the more enigmatic characters on the show and like charismatic characters on the show that people actually wanted to watch and follow, they killed her. And I think that, you know, and then she had to start over. And I think that is, you know, it's a kind of violence. Maybe it's a metaphorical or literal violence, but it's a kind of violence against a character. And so she had a lot to battle back from.
Yeah, we have time for one quick question.
Okay, yeah, I just want to know, so I'm a writer as well, and obviously everybody's like, we need to get these voices out, we need to have people behind the camera, and one of the things that I think that I struggle with is like, I also don't want to deal with the you know, like the response,
the weight,
I guess.
the responsibility.
Yeah. Well, not the responsibility, but more the hate, like the racism that, like, you know, because I feel like whether you're writing articles, whether you're writing fiction, you end up with this pushback, this like messed up racist pushback, and I think it keeps me and probably other writers from like really feeling like they can do what needs to be done and like tell the stories that need to be told. And I guess my question is like, how do y'all deal with that? Or do you have suggestions for how to deal with that? Or do you know what I mean?
I do.
I think we do all know what you mean.
Does everyone have a quick, short answers?
Yeah, I think what I try to focus on is instead of that pushback, I'm thinking about what I'm gaining and what I'm contributing. And I think about the younger version of me who needed to read whatever it is that I'm writing. I think about the cast who probably is thinking the same exact thing, but they can't say it because they're beholden to a contract. Yeah. I think about the readers who are now having their opinions changed or feeling seen. I try to think and focus only on that because, like I said earlier, I'm not interested in engaging with people who clearly do not want to understand my perspective and my worldview. So I'm going to focus on those who do. And that is what I think keeps me going because I know that we're writing with a larger purpose in mind. And that's going to be always bigger than a racist, okay?
Yeah, and it says a lot more about them than it says about you. Yeah. And I think if something that in addition to all of that I also try to put forth is I try to just make sure that I stand behind what I write 100%. So that even if someone disagrees with it, I'm just kind of like, well, hey, we can agree to disagree. You know, it's like, did I put my best foot forward? Did I write something that I think is true? Did I write something that I think is good? Because the world can tell you it's horrible, but I can be like Tommy Wiseau with Room, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I love this thing and I made it. And I think as long as you can stand behind your work, then, you know, that's the best thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah, I also have like, you know, you guys are more on the front lines with you guys releasing articles and op-eds so soon. Me as an educator, you know, when I was down in Florida, which is where I met Noella, you know, we were starting to get those conversations like about policing in classrooms from students and how they could sue us, you know, and take us to court based on what we were teaching. So being strategic, and also know that, at least for me, it's bigger than me in terms of fighting the good fight and just trying to put my foot down, man.
My answer is that I'm writing this book. I have to channel it and put it somewhere. But thank you everyone so much. Please, a round of applause for my panelists. I am so grateful for all of you attending. Thank you so much to the Public Library. Thank you to New York Comic Con. And thank you to everyone that is streaming us well on Twitch. This is where you can find us. Please scan the QR code for more information. That will take you straight to my newsletter, which is where you can learn more about the book. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Comic Con, everybody.